AITA for walking out when my wife's cover story fell apart during dinner? I'm Robert, 37, and at the time, I had been Allison's husband for 9 years. I was the quieter one in the marriage, the steady one, the one who worked normal hours, paid bills on time, and tried to keep arguments from turning into scenes. We had an ordinary life in the way most married couples do. Shared checking account, shared calendar, leftovers in glass containers. A house that always seemed to have one cabinet door slightly open no matter how many times I closed it. I knew Allison well enough to know which coffee mug she reached for when she was happy and which cabinet door she slammed when she wanted me to ask what was wrong. I used to think being calm was the same thing as being steady. It took me too long to realize that in my marriage, my calm had become the empty space Allison used to write whatever story made her look better. Allison was 35, and I did not marry a cruel woman. That matters. She was warm when we met. Funny. Confident. The kind of person who could walk into a backyard cookout with 5 strangers and have everyone laughing in 10 minutes. She remembered tiny details about people, like someone's dog's surgery or a coworker's kid applying to college. She made people feel seen. For a long time, I thought we balanced each other. She brought color into rooms. I made sure the lights stayed on. She was spontaneous. I was practical. She could turn a boring Sunday into a last-minute dinner with friends, and I could make sure the car had gas, the reservation was confirmed, and we had enough money in the account after it was over. The part that hurt was that the light was still there. It just stopped coming home with me. Around our friends, Allison still sparkled. She would laugh with Megan, hug people at the door, refill drinks without asking, and make jokes that landed perfectly. Then we would get home, and her face would go flat before she even took off her shoes. I would ask, "You okay?" She would say, "I'm tired, Robert." At first, I believed her. Everyone gets tired. Marriage has boring seasons. People change. Stress stacks up in quiet ways. So I gave her space. Then space turned into distance, and distance turned into contempt. She started calling me predictable, then too serious, then safe, but not exciting. At home, those words stung. In front of people, they became jokes. At a game night, she told everyone, "Robert acts like a dad at every party. He's basically one New Balance purchase away from asking people to turn the music down." Everyone laughed. I laughed too, because that was what you did when the joke had your name on it, and the room was already moving on. A week later at dinner, she said, "Marriage is wild. Sometimes you wake up and realize you're just roommates with joint insurance." Megan laughed too hard at that one. Caleb, my closest friend in the group, glanced at me from across the table. He had that look people get when they see the edge of something but don't want to name it in public. I waited until Allison and I were in the car before I said, "Can we not make our marriage the punchline?" She stared out the windshield and said, "You're proving my point." "What point?" "That you can't take anything lightly." I was joking. It didn't feel like a joke. She gave a tired little laugh. "Exactly. Everything has to be an entire emotional hearing with you." That was how she did it. If I said nothing, the joke stood. If I said something, I was sensitive. If I asked for a real conversation, I was exhausting. So I started choosing silence, and she started treating that silence like proof I had no feelings. But I did try. I know that sounds like something every husband says when a marriage is falling apart, but I did. I made dinner reservations for our anniversary at a place she had mentioned 3 times. She canceled 2 hours before because she was drained, and then posted a story from Megan's couch with the caption, "Sometimes girls' night is the only thing that saves you." I suggested a weekend away, nothing fancy, just a rented place and some quiet. She said, "That sounds like pressure disguised as romance." I booked one marriage counseling appointment after she told me she felt emotionally alone. I put it on our shared calendar and forwarded her the confirmation email. She texted back, "Therapy won't make you interesting." I remember sitting in the kitchen reading that message while the dishwasher hummed beside me. There was a bowl in the sink with dried sauce on the edge. Something about that tiny, normal detail made the whole thing feel worse. You think heartbreak will happen with screaming or slammed doors. Sometimes it happens while you're standing barefoot on cold tile, staring at a sentence that tells you your effort is embarrassing. Around that time, Derek started showing up in conversations. Derek was 36, single, and technically part of the larger friend circle, though I'd never been close to him. He was the kind of guy who always acted casual, but paid very close attention to whether women laughed at his jokes. Allison started mentioning him like he was a harmless detail. Derek said the funniest thing today. Derek gets what I mean about feeling stuck. Derek actually listens instead of trying to fix everything. The first few times, I let it go. Then I noticed her phone tilting away from me when she laughed. I noticed one-word answers to me while she typed paragraphs to someone else. I noticed the way she would mention his name and then watch my face. One night, while we were brushing our teeth, I said, "Is Derek becoming part of our marriage now?" She looked at me in the mirror, toothbrush still in her hand. "Excuse me. You bring him up a lot. He's my friend." I didn't say he wasn't. "You're making it weird." "I'm asking because you're making him part of our marriage." She rinsed her mouth, set the cup down harder than necessary, and said, "This is why I can't be honest with you. You turn everything into control." There it was again. A normal question became control. A boundary became insecurity. A hurt reaction became evidence for whatever case she was building. I started writing things down, not because I had some master plan, but because I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I would leave a conversation thinking, "Wait, did I say something wrong?" Then I would look back at the text and realize I had asked one plain question and somehow ended up apologizing for her reaction. Caleb was the only person I told much of this to. He and I had been friends long before he became part of the couple dinner orbit with Allison and Megan. He wasn't dramatic. He didn't encourage revenge fantasies. He just listened. One Friday, after Allison posted another vague story that said, "It's lonely when the person beside you stopped seeing you years ago," I sent Caleb a screenshot and wrote, "Am I losing it?" He called me instead of texting. "I'm going to say something you may not want to hear," he said. "Great start. If she's building a story, don't give her the ending she wants." What does that mean? It means don't explode. Don't threaten anybody. Don't post back. Save what you have access to. Don't touch what you don't. Facts first. Feelings later. I hated how much sense that made. I wanted to defend myself. I wanted to write one long message in the group chat explaining every canceled date, every rejected conversation, every time she smiled in public and acted disgusted with me in private. But Caleb was right. If Allison had already decided I was cold and controlling, any angry public defense would just look like confirmation. So I kept records. My own texts. Public social media posts she made about married roommate energy. The counseling confirmation email. The canceled anniversary reservation. Shared calendar entries she ignored. Statements from our joint checking account and shared credit card. I didn't hack anything. I didn't open her phone. I didn't log into her accounts. I saved what was already mine, what was public, or what came through accounts we both used. Still, part of me hoped I was being ridiculous. I hoped there was no plan. I hoped she was unhappy in a messy, human way, not cruel in a deliberate way. I could survive an unhappy wife. I didn't know if I could survive finding out my wife had turned me into a character in a story she was telling everyone else. The dinner where everything cracked was supposed to be small. Just a few of us at Megan's place. Paper plates stacked on the kitchen island. A couple of takeout trays. Drinks sweating onto coasters. Someone had brought those couples question cards people use when they want to pretend game night is spontaneous. At first, Allison was funny in a way that almost passed as harmless. One card asked, "What is one word your partner would use to describe you?" Allison looked at me and said, "Robert would say I'm dramatic." I said, "I'd probably say passionate." She rolled her eyes with a smile. "See? He even makes compliments sound like HR paperwork." People laughed. I smiled a little and took a sip of my drink. Then another card asked, "What keeps the spark alive?" Before I could answer, Allison said, "I'll let you know when I find out." Megan snorted into her cup. Caleb stopped smiling. "Allison," I said quietly. "What?" "I'm being honest." She looked around the room like honesty needed witnesses. "Isn't that what everyone says? Communication matters?" A friend named Jordan said, half joking, "So Robert is safe but not exciting?" Allison leaned back in her chair. "Safe is nice. Not exciting, but nice." I felt my ears get hot. I looked down at the paper plate in front of me. A smear of sauce had leaked into the corner where a piece of bread had gone soft. I remember that because I was trying to focus on anything except the feeling of being peeled open in front of people who were supposed to be my friends. Then she said, "Honestly, sometimes I feel single with a mortgage." The room laughed, but not as easily that time. Megan laughed anyway, louder than the others, like she could force the moment back into being funny. I looked at Allison. She wasn't just talking. She was watching. Watching me. Watching the room. Measuring how far she could go. Another friend, maybe trying to break the tension, asked, "So why are you still married?" Allison didn't hesitate. She looked right at me and said, "Because leaving would make me look like the bad guy." The room went quiet in a way I could feel on my skin. I pushed my chair back. Not fast. Not hard. I stood up and picked up my jacket from the back of the chair. Allison's face changed. Just a flicker. Surprise, maybe. Or satisfaction. It was gone too quickly to be sure. I said, "I'm not sitting here while you turn me into the night's entertainment." I turned toward the door. That was when her phone lit up on the table. It was face up beside her glass. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. The notification preview was bright enough for anyone near the table to see. "Derek, did he buy the story yet? Or do you still need me to play along?" My whole body went cold. Caleb saw it too. He was standing near the island, and his eyes moved from the phone to me. He didn't say anything. He just gave me a small, serious nod, like he wanted me to know I hadn't imagined it. Allison grabbed the phone and flipped it over. "What story?" I asked. She laughed, but it came out thin. "Are you seriously doing this here?" "I'm leaving." "Of course you are." Her voice got louder, polished for the room. "That's what you do? You shut down and punish me." I looked at the people around the table. Some stared at their cups. Megan looked at Allison, then at me, then down at her lap. Caleb moved toward the hallway like he was ready to walk me out if I needed him to. I said, "Good night." Then I left. Allison followed me outside 2 minutes later, heels clicking too fast on the walkway. She got into the passenger seat and slammed the door before I could start the car. "You embarrassed me," she said. I looked through the windshield. Megan's porch light glowed behind a hanging plant. Somebody inside laughed awkwardly, then stopped. I said, "What story was Derek talking about?" "This is exactly why I can't talk to you." "What story?" "You see one text and invent a conspiracy." "I saw a text from a man you keep telling me not to worry about asking if I bought a story." She crossed her arms. "Derek is dramatic." "What did he mean by play along?" She turned toward the window. "You walked out after I finally told the truth about how I feel. That is the issue. You don't get to shift this." I started the car. My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed flat. "I'm not fighting with you in the driveway. Because you know you're wrong." "No. Because Caleb was right." That made her look at me. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm not giving you the scene you seem to want." She didn't speak the rest of the drive. At home, she went straight to our bedroom and shut the door. I slept in the guest room. Actually, I didn't sleep much. I sat on top of the covers with my laptop open and wrote a timeline from memory. The counseling appointment. The anniversary dinner. The vague posts. The canceled plans. The nights she said she was with Megan. The hotel bar charge on our shared credit card from one of those nights. The rideshare receipt that didn't match Megan's address. A Zelle note from Derek on a joint account statement that just said, "For drinks, don't be weird." From the same week Allison had told me I was paranoid for asking why his name kept showing up. At 1:18 in the morning, I texted Caleb. "Tell me I didn't imagine that notification." He replied almost immediately. "You didn't. Do not confront her angry. Save everything you legally have." Then another message came through. Facts. Dates. Screenshots. Not speeches. So that was what I did. The next night, Megan messaged me. "For what it's worth, I think Allison took it too far." I stared at that sentence for a while. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't an explanation. It was a person stepping one toe away from a fire she had helped build. I wrote back, "What did Derek mean by play along?" She left me on read for 40 minutes. Then she replied, "I don't want to be in the middle." I typed, erased it, typed again. "Then don't be in the middle. Tell the truth." No answer. The next morning, she sent, "I thought she was just venting." I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee getting cold. Allison was upstairs moving around like nothing had happened. I could hear drawers opening and closing. Normal sounds from an abnormal house. I wrote, "Venting about what?" Megan sent a cropped screenshot. Not a full conversation. Just enough to protect herself while pretending she wasn't protecting herself. The first line was from Allison. "If he finally blows up, everyone will understand why I'm done." Below it, another line. "Derek said he'll make it believable if Robert asks questions." Megan's message under the screenshot said, "I didn't know she meant it like that." I had to put the phone down. For months, I had wondered whether I was failing at marriage because I wasn't expressive enough, not fun enough, not alive enough for her. And I'm not going to pretend I was perfect. I did go quiet. I did avoid fights. Sometimes I chose peace over honesty because I was tired and because public conflict embarrassed me. There were nights she wanted emotion from me, and I gave her logistics. There were conversations where I thought staying calm was kindness, and maybe it felt like distance to her. But this wasn't just unhappiness. This was planning. She didn't just want out. She wanted a clean exit where she could point at me and say, "See? That's what." She had been poking at me in front of people, mentioning Derek, making our marriage a joke, and waiting for me to become the man she had already described. I didn't confront her that morning. That may sound strange, but something in me had shifted. I didn't want a screaming match in the kitchen that she could later describe however she wanted. I wanted clarity. So I did 4 things. First, I saved only what I had a right to save. My texts, my emails, screenshots of public posts, shared account statements, calendar entries, the screenshot Megan voluntarily sent me, Caleb's confirmation that he had seen the notification. Later, Derek's own message to me. Second, I moved my direct deposit into a separate account. I didn't drain our joint checking. I didn't stop paying the mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries, or anything that was actually ours. But I went through the automatic payments and found the quiet little leaks I had been covering for years. Allison's extra gym membership, a couple of beauty subscription boxes, her personal streaming add-ons, a salon membership I didn't even know was still billing my card, a few wellness apps she had signed up for and forgotten because forgetting them had no consequence when I paid them. I canceled what was mine to cancel and removed my card where I could. I kept paying what was actually ours. I stopped funding the performance. Third, I scheduled a legal consultation. I didn't file anything that day. I didn't send her a dramatic text with the word divorce in all caps. I just needed to know what protecting myself looked like before she had another chance to tell the story for me. Fourth, I waited. I knew Allison. She couldn't leave a room uncontrolled. If people had seen that notification, she would need to explain it before I did. She lasted 2 days. On Monday night, the group chat lit up while I was making a sandwich at the counter. The house was quiet. Allison was in the living room with the TV on low, pretending not to watch me. Her message was long, very polished, very sad. I've been trying not to bring people into this, but after Robert walked out on me for finally being honest, I need to say something. I have felt emotionally abandoned for years. I tried to communicate. I tried to give him chances to see me. He turns cold whenever I express pain. And the other night was just another example. I'm not perfect, but I'm tired of being punished for having feelings. Then came the replies. Bro, walking out was cold. Allison looked wrecked. There are 2 sides, but you need to own your side. Man, just apologize and talk to your wife. Megan didn't write anything. Caleb didn't either. I read the messages twice. My first instinct was to type a paragraph. Then I heard Caleb's voice in my head. Facts, dates, screenshots, not speeches. So I wrote one message. I'm not arguing with a performance. Here is the part she left out. Then I attached a short timeline. Not every wound. Not every insult. Just dates and receipts. The counseling appointment she refused after saying I never tried. The anniversary reservation she canceled and mocked. The public story about feeling unseen posted 20 minutes after I had asked her to talk privately. The shared credit card rideshare from the night she said she was with Megan. The hotel bar charge from the same night. The Zelle note connected to Derek. Megan's cropped screenshot. Caleb replied first. I saw Derek's notification at dinner. Robert is not making that up. The chat went silent for almost a full minute. That doesn't sound long unless you are watching bubbles appear and disappear under people's names while your marriage is being weighed like gossip. Then someone wrote, Megan, did you know? Megan replied, I didn't know it was a plan. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because there was something impressive about trying to deny a plan while admitting there was an it. Allison came into the kitchen holding her phone. What did you do? She asked. I put the knife down beside the sandwich. I answered. You posted private stuff? You made private stuff public first. I was talking about my feelings. You were talking about me. Her eyes filled with tears fast. Allison could cry beautifully. I don't mean that as an insult. Some people cry in a way that makes you want to hand them the room. Her voice softened. Robert, why are you trying to humiliate me? I looked at her, and felt something in me settle. I'm not asking the room to like me. I'm asking it to stop repeating a lie. She wiped her cheek. Then let's clear the air. In person. No more screenshots. No more twisting. Let people hear both sides. I knew what she expected. She expected the room. She expected tears to do what they had always done. She expected me to get embarrassed and soften because public confrontation made my skin crawl. I said, good. So do I. The next evening, a few of them came over. Not everyone from the group chat, but enough. Caleb stood near the far wall with his arms folded. Megan sat on the edge of the couch, knees together, phone clutched in both hands. Jordan and his wife sat in the chairs by the window. Allison had arranged the living room like a mediation, which would have been funny if I hadn't felt sick. I brought a printed folder and my phone. No dramatic slideshow. No speech written in advance. Just paper, dates, and enough calm to keep my hands from shaking. Allison started before anyone sat all the way down. I just want everyone to know I never wanted this to become ugly, she said, voice already trembling. I have felt alone for so long. And when I finally said it out loud, Robert punished me by walking out. Jordan looked at me. Man, you do need to own that. I nodded. I'll own what I did, I said. I left a room where my wife was performing our marriage like a roast. Now let's talk about what she did before that. Allison's face tightened. I opened the folder. This is the counseling confirmation from March, I said. She told the chat I never tried to work on anything. I scheduled this after she said she felt emotionally alone. She refused to go. Allison cut in. Because you only did that after I begged you to care. I looked at her. You texted me. Therapy won't make you interesting. That's on the next page. No one laughed. I turned the page. This is the anniversary reservation. She canceled it 2 hours before, then posted from Megan's couch about girls' night saving her. Megan looked down. This is the story she posted about feeling unseen. Same night, I asked her to sit with me and talk without phones. She said she was too tired, then posted that. Allison's voice sharpened. You're taking everything out of context. Then add context. She opened her mouth, then shut it. I pulled out the statement. This is the rideshare charge from a night Allison said she was with Megan. It went to a hotel bar. This is the bar charge. This is the Zelle note from Derek connected to the same week. Megan whispered. She wasn't with me that night. Allison turned on her. Seriously? Megan's face went red. I'm not lying for you. You already did, I said. That landed harder than I expected. Megan flinched. I picked up my phone. Derek messaged me after the group chat started asking questions. I said. I didn't ask him for a confession. He sent this because he wanted out of it. I read it out loud. She told me you two were basically done. I didn't think it was that serious. I was just playing along with what she said was already true. I don't want to be part of this. Allison started crying harder. You're humiliating me on purpose, she said. You made our marriage a public joke, I said. I'm making the truth public too. Jordan's wife looked at Allison. Her voice was quieter than I expected. Did you actually ask Derek to play along? Allison wiped her face. I was lonely. That's not what she asked, Caleb said. Allison glared at him. You don't know what it's like to be married to someone who makes you feel invisible. Caleb didn't move. I know what a setup looks like. Megan suddenly said. I thought she was just venting. I turned toward her. Venting is saying you're unhappy. Planning to make me look unstable is something else. Megan's eyes filled with tears too, but hers looked more like fear than grief. I didn't think she would say it in front of everyone, she said. I opened the screenshot she had sent and read the line. If he finally blows up, everyone will understand why I'm done. Then the next one. Derek said he'll make it believable if Robert asks questions. The living room went silent. It wasn't a movie silence. No one gasped. No one gave a perfect apology. People just looked uncomfortable, which honestly felt more real. Jordan rubbed both hands over his face. His wife stared at the floor. Megan cried quietly. Caleb looked sadder than angry. Allison said, I never said you were a monster. I said I felt invisible. I closed the folder. No. You said enough to make people ready to believe I was one. She shook her head. You're being cold. I'm being careful. You're punishing me for being unhappy. I'm not punishing you for being unhappy. I'm protecting myself from being framed. That was the first moment Allison looked truly scared. Not because I was yelling. I never yelled. Not because I threatened her. I didn't. She looked scared because the room was no longer hers. I told her the boundaries right there, in front of the same people she had brought in as an audience. I'm keeping shared bills paid, I said. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, groceries. I'm not cutting off what's ours. But I've stopped paying your non-essential personal expenses from my card. I moved my direct deposit. I'm speaking with a lawyer so I understand my options. From now on, anything about money, bills, or next steps goes in writing. Allison whispered, so that's it? If there is any chance of reconciliation, it happens in marriage counseling. No public jokes about our marriage. No vague posts. No involving friends like a jury. No Derek. No stories about where you are that turn out not to be true. She stared at me like I had become a stranger. I added, cold is not the same thing as done. But I am done being framed. Nobody had much to say after that. People left in small, awkward waves. Jordan mumbled, I didn't know all that. Like the words cost him something. His wife hugged Allison first, then stopped in front of me and said, I'm sorry we laughed. Megan tried to talk to me by the door. I really didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I looked at her phone still clutched in her hand. You didn't mean to risk anything for the truth either. She started crying again. I didn't comfort her. Caleb stayed until the end. When the house was finally quiet, he helped me put the papers back into the folder. You okay? He asked. No. Yeah, he said. That makes sense. That was all. No big speech. No dramatic brotherhood moment. He just stood there with me in the wreckage of my living room and let the quiet be honest for once. The fallout was messy in exactly the way real fallout is messy. A few friends apologized privately. Very privately. The people who laughed the loudest apologized the quietest. Jordan sent, I should have asked you before judging. I'm sorry. Another friend wrote, I didn't know any of this. Allison made it sound different. One person removed themselves from the group chat completely, which was somehow both cowardly and understandable. Nobody likes realizing they were used as an audience. Megan got pulled into it because her screenshot proved she knew more than she had admitted. She tried to explain that she thought Allison was exaggerating, that women vent, that she never expected it to go that far. Maybe some of that was true. Maybe she really didn't think through the consequences because the consequences were aimed at me, not her. Derek cut contact with Allison after people started asking him questions. He messaged me once more. I'm sorry, man. She told me you were basically over. I didn't think it was that serious. I replied, it was my marriage. He didn't answer. Allison was furious that her support system had turned on her. Those were her words. Not that she had lied. Not that she had used them. That they had turned on her. For a few days, she tried every version of the conversation. Soft Allison showed up first. I know I handled things badly, she said from the doorway of the guest room. But you don't know how lonely I was. I said, lonely doesn't explain Derek's text. Then wounded Allison. You're acting like I cheated. I'm acting like you staged a version of me that wasn't true. Then angry Allison. You always need to be the good guy. No, I said. I just stopped agreeing to be the bad one. Then the one that almost worked, because it sounded closest to real. I miss when we liked each other, she said one night, standing in the hallway in one of my old sweatshirts. That one hurt. Because I missed it too. I missed the woman who made strangers feel like friends. I missed laughing with her in grocery store aisles. I missed the version of us where her brightness included me. But missing someone is not the same as trusting them. I moved into a short-term rental a week later. Not because I wanted drama, but because staying in that house made every conversation feel like a trap waiting for the right witness. I kept everything in writing. Bills, shared obligations, counseling options, legal paperwork. No late-night circular arguments. No phone calls she could later summarize however she wanted. When she texted, I can't believe you're treating me like an enemy. I wrote back, I'm treating our conversations like they need a record. When she wrote, you're so cold, I wrote, I'm calm. You used to count on me confusing the two. The legal consultation was not dramatic. No instant victory. No attorney promising to destroy anybody. Just a quiet office, plain advice, and the uncomfortable relief of hearing what my options were. I didn't need revenge. I needed a way forward that didn't depend on Allison telling the truth only when cornered. We did start counseling, but not the way I once imagined it. I didn't walk in hoping the right therapist would make her love me again. I walked in with boundaries. Allison spent the first session explaining how exposed she felt. The counselor let her talk, then asked, Do you understand why Robert would need safety before intimacy? Allison cried. I watched the tissue twist in her hands and felt sad instead of guilty. That was new. I don't know what everyone tells themselves about me now. I am sure in some corners I am still the husband who embarrassed his wife with receipts. Fine. People are allowed to prefer the version of a story that costs them the least self-reflection. But I know what happened. I know I walked out instead of exploding. I know I used only what I had a right to use. I know I stopped paying for things quietly while continuing to handle what was actually shared. I know I gave Allison the option of accountability without giving her another stage. And I know I was not perfect. I had spent years using calm as a shield. I stayed quiet when I should have said, "That hurt." I avoided ugly conversations because I thought not fighting meant we were okay. I helped create the silence she later filled with lies. But my flaws did not give her the right to turn our marriage into a performance and cast me as the villain before I even knew there was a script. The last night before I moved the rest of my things out, Allison stood in the kitchen while I packed the coffee mugs. She picked up the blue one she used when she was happy. I hadn't seen her use it in months. "Do you hate me?" she asked. I taped a box shut. No. She waited for more. Maybe she expected comfort. Maybe she expected punishment. I gave her neither. "I hate what you did," I said. "And I hate that you made me prove it." Her eyes filled again, but this time I didn't look away. "I was scared to be the bad guy," she whispered. "So you made me one." She didn't answer. That was the closest she came to admitting it. I left with 2 boxes in my back seat, a folder of documents on the passenger seat, and Caleb's last text on my phone. "Future, you can defend this." For the first time in a long time, I believed that. The marriage didn't end when I walked out of that dinner. It ended the moment I realized she had already cast me as the villain in a story I didn't even know she was writing. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.